What if I told you that the most surprising battle in boxing just took place, and the results astounded even the most devoted fans? Gervonta "Tank" Davis, one of the sport's most feared knockout artists, was expected to dominate his opponent, Lamont Roach. But what happened inside the ring that night? It was nothing short of spectacular. A bout that everyone expected to end one way, but instead had fans, experts, and even the fighters reconsidering everything. Grab a seat because we're about to get into what happened and what you didn't expect from this epic showdown. Tank Davis, the current lightweight champion, is a monster in the ring, noted for his tremendous knockout power that left opponents panting for air. He's been putting opponents away in frightening fashion for years. Lamont Roach, on the other hand, is a name that has rarely made headlines but has always been in the background, putting in the effort. But what about this fight? This fight altered everything for Roach and called into question Tank's dominance in the ring. Fans were curious. Could Roach do the unimaginable and halt Tank's relentless momentum? Everyone knows Tank's capabilities. This dude possesses power in both hands and can knock you out with a single shot. Let's not forget about his smooth footwork, ability to waltz around the ring, and that ever-dangerous left hand. He's been the face of the lightweight class, and the way he destroys opponents makes it seem almost inevitable that he'll win every battle. However, Lamont Roach was not simply turning up for a salary. This was his moment. He'd worked his entire career for this opportunity, and now it was time to prove he belonged among the top. The stakes were sky-high, and boxing fans couldn't help but worry if this was the bout that would reveal Tank's weaknesses. Tank appeared concentrated right away, as if he was on a mission to assert his control. Roach, on the other hand, refused to back down. He came out confidently and landed some clean strokes early on, making Tank stop for a moment. That's not something you see very often. Tank, the champion, is accustomed to dominating his opponents, but Roach was not afraid. He landed a solid combination in the opening round, which piqued the interest of those watching at home and commentators sitting ringside. They reasoned, okay, maybe this will not be a walk in the park. Tank, however, did what he does best. He answered with force. His punches were crisp, and the force in his shots began to show. By the second round, Roach appeared to be a little more cautious, but he was still inside his comfort zone. Both fighters struggled in the early rounds, but Tank's power blows had a greater impact. The difference was obvious. Tank's fists had a different sting. Roach showed respect for Tank's power, but he was not intimidated. He kept pressing forward, and his mental tenacity shone through. By the middle of the conflict, things began to change. Tank, who is typically the one setting the pace, found himself forced to adapt. Roach was not just hanging in there. He was making Tank uncomfortable. He was landing more clean blows, keeping Tank at distance with his footwork, and utilizing his jab efficiently. The longer the fight lasted, the more you realized something. Roach wasn't just trying to survive the night. He was here to win. And with each round, he made it tougher for Tank to enforce his will. The fight continued like this, with both men giving it their all, yet there was an apparent shift taking place. Tank, who is notorious for breaking down opponents, appeared to be struggling with Roach's unpredictable nature and fighting style. The conflict was not going according to the screenplay that many people had written. Experts began to speak up, and even they began to wonder if Roach had more in his arsenal than they had previously assumed. Jim Lampley, for example, who is well known for his competence, noted Tank's skill set, but he also admitted that this fight was not easy. Tank is normally in control, but Roach's resilience and composure were making it much more difficult for the champion to land those deciding shots. Then came the decisive moment, round 9. This was the round at which the conflict would either explode or fizzle out. Tank needed to make a statement. However, Roach refused to back down. As the round went, both men delivered strikes that could have terminated the fight at any time. But what was most startling was Roach's ability to take Tank's greatest shots without hesitation. It was almost as if Tank's abilities didn't have the typical effect. Roach's toughness, defense, and resilience were on full display, and supporters began to realize that Tank's plan A might not be enough this time. By the time the last bell rang, the scorecards had been read, and the crowd was on the edge of their seats. The judges' ruling came in, and it was unexpected, a majority draw. Tank Davis, the knockout king, was involved in a battle that some believed he might have lost. Roach had demonstrated that he could compete with the greatest, and many fans found it difficult to argue that he didn't deserve at least a piece of the victory. Was this the correct call? The battle was close, no question, but the way Roach fought, you couldn't help but think he did enough to gain the win. Tank, the favorite, appeared frustrated. He wasn't used to being questioned in this manner, and the decision left him with a lot to think about. Following the battle, both men were visibly emotional. Tank, ever the cocky champion, didn't believe he had lost, but he couldn't dispute that Roach had given him one of the most difficult fights of his career. Roach, on the other hand, was dissatisfied with the outcome but knew he had done everything he could to demonstrate that he belonged in the conversation with the greatest. Not only was Tank's punching power impressive, but so was Roach's mental fortitude. He demonstrated his ability to absorb even the most powerful shots and continue battling. The conflict that would keep him awake at night, however, was the one in which he was a little more hesitant than he should have been in the beginning. He admitted that he could have been more aggressive in the early rounds, but there was no doubting that this was his best performance, and it gained him significant respect from the boxing world. Now, everyone is wondering what happens next for these two. Is there a rematch? It is certainly a possibility, and if it occurs, it may be even more intense than the previous fight. Tank's team will most certainly come up with a new strategy to fight Roach's adaptability, while Roach, having experienced what it's like to be in the ring with the champ, will return even stronger. One thing is certain. The next time these two meet, it will be a different fight. This fight not only answered issues about Tank's dominance, but it also sparked questions about his future. Is he as unbeatable as people believe? Or did Roach reveal any flaws in his armor? Tank's performance may not have been as faultless as supporters had hoped, but he remains the champion for a reason. His punching power is unrivaled, and he has some of the best footwork in the game. But for the first time in a long time, Tank's sense of invincibility was rattled. And Lamont Roach. He has just put the entire lightweight class on notice. In the aftermath, both boxers will most likely reflect on their experiences and strive to better. For Roach, it's evident that he belongs at the highest level of boxing, and this fight further helped his case. Tank sees it as a reminder that no fight is ever over, and no one is truly unbeatable. So, what comes next? A rematch appears likely, and it may be one of the most entertaining fights of the year. But who will win next time? Will Tank recover his domination, or will Roach pull off an even greater surprise? One thing is certain, this brawl has left everyone talking, and the next chapter in this tale has only just begun. But now, I'd like to hear from you. Was the draw the correct decision? Did Tank actually earn the victory, or did Roach show that he is ready to be a champion in his own right? Please share your ideas in the comments below. Let us keep the conversation going. If you want to stay up to speed on the latest boxing news, be sure to subscribe and enable notifications. You don't want to miss what happens next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the future video.